Hi, everyone. My name's Brian Wong. I'm a DevRel engineer here at Aptos Labs, and I'll be sharing my screen. Fortunately, I found out that once I share my screen, my camera cuts out. So, this is what you'll get from the beginning, and then I'll you'll see my camera go away. So let me share my screen. Cool. So yeah, again, I'm Brian Wong. I'm a DevRel engineer here at Aptos Labs. We'll just jump right into it. Oh, sorry. Share this again. So the Aptos mission, as it reads, is to create universal and fair access to decentralized assets for billions of people. So, what does this really mean? I think in anyone with an internet connection, they can access the Aptos network. They can download the Petra extension. Essentially, that's our wallet. And once they do that, they're able to transmit value to their friends. I think this differs a little bit from traditional finance, where you need to go to a bank, you need to show a government issued ID, and then only then, under the bank's permission, are you able to create a bank account, have access to credit cards, and then only then can you transmit like fiat value between your peers. So this varies a little bit different on blockchains. It works very similarly to other layer one chains like Ethereum or Solana. Shoot, I keep doing this. So some of the background for Aptos is it originally came from the Facebook Libra and Diem project. Initially, it was meant to be the payments network between Instagram and Facebook. However, at the time, Mark Zuckerberg was under a lot of government scrutiny, so he wasn't able to launch this under the Facebook umbrella. He did get the blessing from two teams, one of them being eventually becoming Sweet, and the other being Aptos to spin out as private companies. So the initial team was announced in February 22nd. They raised money from all the top Silicon Valley investors that include A16Z, Multicoin, Dragonfly, and on October 22nd, October 2022, Aptos finally had their mainnet launch. They launched with 100 validators all over the world. Within, I think the first day, you had Jump Trading building decentralized exchanges. You had a lot of the top builders come over and build ecosystem projects. So on day one, there was about 30 ecosystem projects, and within the first month, about $30 million worth of volume entered through these applications. So what can Aptos do? Easy way that I like to think about it is it offers the same scalability and performance of Solana, likely even a little bit better, but also provides the same developer experience and usability like Ethereum. So taking a look at some of the benchmarks, Aptos is meant to support tens of thousands of concurrent users. It was meant to support, originally meant to support all the users at Facebook and Instagram, which is, in the billions. It's also very high throughput. It can support 30,000 TPS on mainnet. I believe we have seen a spike of around 20K TPS, and I don't think any general purpose layer one can make that claim. It's also very low latency, so less than 1 second end-to-end latency. So this means once you sign a transaction on your Petra wallet, your transaction is considered finalized in under a second. And so I think even Solana, they're around like 2.6 seconds. So we kind of beat them in that area. It's also very cost efficient. It costs 1% of a cent to mint NFT, so 0.0001 cents to do most of the transactions on Aptos. We also support seamless onboarding. So we have this feature called Aptos Connect, where you can sign in with your Gmail account, and behind the hood, we'll create an Aptos wallet for you. it'll almost appear like you're using a Web2 wallet. So I think that's quite nice in onboarding more users to Web3. So why Aptos? I think a lot of it has to do with the Move smart contract language, which I'll dive into later. But essentially, it's Move was made specifically for smart contracts. It's not like Rust, which is a general purpose backend language. It also supports. We're planning to support Move 2, which has features like dynamic script composer, where this works very similar to Solana multi-instructions or like ERC multi-call, where you can chain together a bunch of individual transactions as one larger atomic transactions, and you can do this all through our TypeScript SDK. We also support mutation testing within Move 2, so this can kind of help improve your unit testing, make sure you have better code coverage, make sure your smart contracts work as Unit 10. We also have CodeLoader v2, which is an optimization to retrieve modules from storage and kind of better utilize CPU caching layers. So threads can share more common modules that are pulled from storage. We also support extremely fast block times. I believe consensus takes around 150 milliseconds. Extremely low latency, as I mentioned before, less than 1 second end-to-end latency. Very high throughput. We have seen around 20K TPS on mainnet, which you can verify on our Explorer. We also theoretically support 160K TPS. This will happen as hardware improves. We do take advantage of multi-core hardware. Not something you kind of hear in the Ethereum world. We have over $1 billion of stablecoins that recently onboarded to our chain. So we support all the major ones: USDC, USDT, and Athena. We're also very low fees, so 1% of a cent. And a few programs that I think are unique to Aptos is we have the LFM program, where if you're an application that has launched on mainnet, you likely will eventually create your own token, and you probably need some support on tokenomics, how to connect with market makers, how to ensure that your token does well. And so we kind of have this program with our ecosystem teams just to make sure that, like, hey, we in order for Aptos to be successful, we want our ecosystem teams to also be successful. Also, Avery recently has put out this narrative around the global trading engine. So we have this push to better support DeFi on Aptos. Some part of that has to do with the onboarding of more stable coins. We're also going to release AIPs. This is similar to like ERCs or like SIMDs, where we're going to support more community requests around like reordering transactions or scheduled on-chain transactions, or even cross-chain accounts where you can use your Phantom or MetaMask wallet on Aptos applications, and kind of behind the scenes we'll use CCTP to help move funds from different networks into the Aptos blockchain. So diving in a little more, Ethereum versus Aptos, I mean, the main one being Move versus Solidity. I'll get into kind of the differences between, or the benefits between Move in more detail in some of the future slides, but the major one being the execution model. So Move uses optimistic parallel execution, versus Ethereum uses sequential execution. So this is kind of powered by Block-STM. So if you have two transactions that touch the same state, they'll re-execute sequentially. Performance-wise, this allows for 20K TPS versus Ethereum, which is still around like 15 to 30 TPS. With Aptos, you have extremely fast finality and low fees. Both chains use proof of stake. Aptos uses something called Aptos BFT, which is a reputation-based leader rotation. So faster validators are more likely to be block proposers. On ETH, they are more decentralized. I believe they have around 800,000 to 1 million validators, but this leads to like slower finality and slower TPS. So some of the unique features to Aptos is we have the Move Prover. This is a way to formally verify your smart contracts just to make sure they work as you intend. You also have aggregators, which allows for developers to run massively sequential operations in parallel. So something we like to demonstrate a lot is we're able to mint a million NFTs in less than 30 seconds, and that's only possible in Aptos. We also support randomness in case you want to build some sort of on-chain video game or some sort of gambling component. And we also support Aptos Workspace, which is very similar to Foundry or Hardhat, allows for better end-to-end integration testing. So what is Move? Again, it's a smart contract specific language that originally was developed at Meta, just a heavy focus on security and simplicity. It's built on top of Rust, but it's not native Rust. I think this has to do with, in fact, I think Solana being native Rust, it's just become so difficult that in order to write contracts on Solana, you need to have a framework called Anchor to help make this a lot easier. And this is kind of where you run into the issue of like, not only do you have to worry about writing, idiomatic Rust, you have to make sure you're honoring the Anchor framework, in addition to like all of the Solana native things you need to worry about. So diving into Move, I think the nice thing about Move is, it's a strongly typed language. So if you have any issues at compile time. We also support secure runtime verification, which ends up protecting against a huge class of attacks, most commonly reentrancy attacks. So let's say you have a withdrawal function in Ethereum. It's very common that you can reenter into the smart contract, call this withdrawal function, and you don't end up having any state reflecting any state changes. And so you commonly hear of these really large hacks on Ethereum that can like amount to like 100 millions or billions even. And you very likely don't hear about this too much in the Move ecosystems. We also protect against double spend, arithmetic overflow. We also support smart contract upgradability by default, which is very common in Web 2 if you need to make changes to your application. And a nice thing is, we also are formally verified. So we have in our CLI, we have a Move prover. This is kind of just a way to mathematically prove that your contract works as you intend. And we're also very developer friendly. So we support high level abstractions, modularity. Now, most of the common things that you hear in other layer ones, except I would say with Aptos, it's kind of just because of how performant we are and all the security features that we support. As an app developer, you mainly just have to focus on your business logic and what features you want to run, and you don't have to worry too much about like infrastructure. I know in ETH, it's very common to leave out certain assertions or be very cautious of gas fees for end users. Kind of on Aptos, you don't really have to worry about that too much. You kind of just need to focus on building your application. So some of the Aptos products that I think are cool to mention is we have Aptos Connect, which allows for kind of a keyless wallet experience, essentially like a Gmail login where it works like a Web 2 application, but behind the scenes, we create a public-private key pair for your users, except we use some of the general zero-knowledge proof, so we don't tie a public key to a user's Gmail account. We also support Petra Wallet, which will work similar to Phantom or MetaMask. We have our Aptos Explorer, very similar to something like an Etherscan or a SoulScan. And then we also have an Aptos Learn platform. So if you're completely new to the Move ecosystem, we have a bunch of tutorials where you can learn the Move programming language. We even have one specific to if you come from other ecosystems like Ethereum or Solana. And so I think that's very helpful. Moving on. The Aptos mission, a second mission statement that we have is to 10x our Aptos ecosystem by 2025. So the second half of this presentation, I want to kind of mention what the Aptos ecosystem kind of looks like, what apps are currently live on our blockchain. So the first one being Merkle Trade. So this is our perp dex that works similar to like a Hyperliquid or like a Drift protocol. This is where you can go like 150x leverage on your favorite meme coin and kind of trade it up. Second one being Tapos. This is our tap to earn game. This game was quite unique in the sense that it allowed for us to hit, I think, the record in the most amount of transactions in a given day in a 24-hour period. So that's where we hit 326 million transactions in a day. And not only that, we also allowed for, like on the picture to the left, this is one of the founding engineers' child, and you can see, like, just from the user experience perspective, it's so easy that a child can interact with an on-chain game. The third one being Graphio. So this was only every pixel modification was its own individual on-chain action. This was a kind of a community-driven NFT project. This was only possible given, you know, Aptos's parallel execution engine, Block-STM, and sponsored transactions. And I think at one point we had 600,000 active users contributing to this project. So just switching gears a little bit, we also support the AI agent narrative. I think it's quite interesting in how it came up. I think most people saw ChatGPT and realized, like, you know, how powerful it was. Meta, you know, purchased a ton of GPUs, ton of H100s to kind of compete in this space, and they created their own model, like, you know, Llama 70B. And then you had Truth Terminal, where you know, Mark Andreessen funded a researcher out in New Zealand who ended up creating a Truth Terminal. He had it launched on Twitter. A lot of people interacted with this Twitter account. It sent a lot of funny tweets. And eventually a community member created a token. And over the course of like 3 days, you saw this token go from like 0 to 300 million. It got a lot of people excited. And then you saw derivative projects. So one of them being AI16Z, where it had this narrative of decentralizing the really large hedge fund in Silicon Valley called A16Z. They created their own framework called ELIZA, which allowed people on Twitter to create their own AI agents. They, in addition to having their own token, which went you know, very high in the course of like a couple months. And so you kind of had this AI agent narrative that was maybe a bit hotter in the end of Q4, the beginning of Q1. And so here at Aptos, we also support this narrative. Essentially, AI agents are a way for large language models to have access to a private key. And I think, and then eventually these agents can post on Twitter. They can create and launch their own tokens. They can trade tokens. I think this is quite unique in kind of the net new features that AI agents allow, right? So I think in Web 2, if you want to, you know, permissionlessly transact value between two friends, like you cannot just do it programmatically, right? You have to, you know, sign up for Stripe or sign up for PayPal. But in order to sign up for PayPal, you know, you need to, you know, show some government issued ID. You cannot just like spin up a public-private key pair like you can on chain. In addition to like creating and launching new tokens, like if you wanted to do this in traditional finance, you know, if you wanted to launch a new ticker on the NASDAQ, like there's probably a formal process. You cannot just do this instantly. But in Web3 with AI agents, you can kind of just do this programmatically. You can just leave it up to the large language model's decision. And kind of this is how this AI agent trend initially took off. And for us to support it, we have the MetaMove agent kit, which allows you to create an AI agent that interacts with some of the Aptos DeFi products. We also support the Merkle Trade SDK, which allows users to create AI agents on top of the perp trading decks that I mentioned before. This is the same company that created the Merkle Trade SDK. We also support the project that took off AI16 ELIZA OS, so you can do things on chain on Aptos with ELIZA. And Goat SDK allows you to create another AI agent through, this is Crossmint's version of AI agent. And lastly, I just want to mention Aptos DeFi. So according to Token Terminal, Aptos DeFi is now, or Aptos is now the #4 blockchain by daily users. A lot of this has to do with the recent onboarding of all of our stablecoins. So now that we have over $1 billion of stables on our chain with USDC, Tether, and Athena, I think this kind of like primes the area for DeFi applications to take off. I think a lot of people prefer to have their base currency denominated in stables like USD. So mentioning some of our top DeFi projects, we have Ares Lending Protocol. They own about 70% of the market share on Aptos. They have 600 million of TVL. Essentially, how they work is if you have any USDC or any stables that are not earning yield, you can lend them to Ares and earn around 7 to 8%. And in the case that you want to borrow, you can over collateralize and borrow against your collateral and do whatever you want. But this kind of works very similar to a bank. But instead of a bank kind of getting all this spread, this is shared amongst our users. So Ares is an interesting project. We also have Amnes Liquid Staking, which just went through our LFM program. They just had their token generation event, I think 3 to 4 weeks ago. And yeah, their token is pretty successful. Things are holding up with them. And yeah, I think for liquid staking, because Aptos is proof of stake, validators need to have some APT token locked up. But as a normal user, this is kind of hard to do on your own. You need to run your own infrastructure. And as a validator, you kind of receive rewards in the form of block rewards or in the form of issuance. And so if you're a normal user who wants to take a part of this yield that's given to validators, you can use Amnes and stake some of your APT with them. So all of that being said, in addition to recently Avery has mentioned the global trading engine, Aptos has this huge push to expanding their DeFi ecosystem. So we're accumulating about $200 million in the form of grants or incentives. And so if you're a builder who's interested in building on Aptos, we have a grants page which you can apply with your own idea if you scan the QR code, or we also have a registry of projects that we would like to see, almost like a request for startups. And so how to get started, I think the first place is you can kind of scroll through our documentation, which is just aptos.dev. If you're curious on Learning Move and how to get started from other ecosystems, you can check out Aptos Learn. Or if you're kind of like a more experienced developer and you want to get started just right away, we have this feature called Create Aptos dApp, which will give you a fully working front end and back end and allow you to kind of very quickly spin up your own full stack application. So some of the templates that we support is like a token minting template, a staking template. We even have like Telegram mini apps. We also have a couple more that I didn't mention in these PowerPoints, but there's a link for that as well. Very lastly, I think this might be quite interesting to people. This is a proof of attendance protocol. If you scan this QR code and use the code on the second bullet point, you'll be able to redeem a free NFT. You'll be able to also sign in with just like your Gmail account. You don't have to worry about not having an Aptos wallet or anything. I'll leave this up, just for a little bit. The goal with this is just to kind of keep track of who attended this presentation, and like in the future, people who are owners of this NFT, there might be some form of incentives that we give for people who attend a lot of our events. So I'll leave this up for 10 more seconds. It's a free NFT. You can kind of use some of the Aptos tech, like Aptos Connect, which is the Gmail login, and very lastly, we have this Google form. Let's say you're a developer and you didn't get a chance to ask a question, or you want to just simply learn more. This Google form will be directed to our community manager out in Turkey. He'll take any questions and then kind of redirect it to the proper team. Cool. I think that wraps up most of my presentation. So thanks for listening. That's my information in the bottom left. If you didn't get a chance to ask me a question, you can reach out to me on Twitter or email me, and I'll make sure to get back to you.